Hello, everybody. Scott Golden here with the Pro Wrestling Logic YouTube channel and the World Class Championship Wrestling Review Series. We are nearing the end of October. October 23rd, 1982 is our journey today, and that is a program that's about 10 or 11 weeks shy of the end of the year 1982, which takes us into 83. Many people say 83 the best year of world class ever. I haven't seen 83 all the year through, so I don't honestly know, but suffice to say, that's the belief that's there. We open this week's program, though, with the great Kabuki versus Al Madril. We've seen this many a time before, and it's no different here. Obviously, this is a common series of matches between these two individuals, Bugsy McGraw, in the ringside area this time to rile up the fans and all that. Arman Hussein of H&H Limited is there with Kabuki. Kabuki bringing a modified sword to the ring with him for his, I guess, protection or whatever have you. And so we move into the match. Match is relatively basic. We've seen a good bit of those before. So it's not anything we haven't already seen, and certainly not a match that you need to go out of your way to see if you've seen the various others they've had. You know, basic nerve holds by Kabuki, martial arts maneuvers, Kabuki, and Madril, who I will say is over with the audience. Obviously, the Elvis piece earlier in the year might have given him a little more character than he naturally had. But suffice to say, he certainly has won the people over quite a bit. He moves through the match relatively simply. Kabuki using the nerve holds as he often does. You know, Madril trying to neutralize him. Madril goes back and forth between tag team competition and competition of a singles nature. He's also more likely to grab a hold and stick with it, whereas Kabuki willing to do the chops and the kicks and the martial arts related strikes. Kabuki goes to the outside for a minute with him, or actually Madril goes to the outside. Madril actually catches a kick. What I really, and it really does speak to, and I've been a fan now for going on, it'll be 32 years, let me see. 89, 99, 2000, 2009, 2019. So 32 years in March. Actually, probably even sooner than that. So let's just say January, because March of '89 was my first house show. So fan for 32 years. It's so nice to see guys not take a dive over the top rope when a guy goes to the outside. That's such an overdone thing in current wrestling. Anyway, leg sweep by Kabuki, chops by Kabuki. Kabuki, of course, as we will learn later in the program, and I think I jumped in our last review to the reveal of Kerry Von Erich getting injured by the shin factor, or that new shin crusher that Kabuki uses. But Kerry talks about that in this program. Unfortunately, it didn't happen on television, I don't think. I don't remember seeing it. I think it happened at a live event, and they may show footage of it later. But the primary footage of Kerry getting injured and out for 6 weeks, which is what he reveals in the interview, by the way, is there. Kabuki with a sidekick into Madril. They've gone nearly 10 or 12 minutes here. Like I said, a lot of the Kabuki and Madril matches are just there to kill time. Interesting that they do not put Madril in the situation of taking the shin breaker, so they can't take him off TV. Instead, they go in the direction of moving him. They move him into a nerve hold situation, and that nerve hold is sufficient to end the match. Referee does the stoppage there, and that is sufficient Actually, referee does not do a stoppage there right off, but Madrill gets counted out almost. Looks like a stoppage because Hussein makes his way in, and it tricks me. Both times I've seen the match, I actually had to go back and watch part of the match a second time, and it tricked me both times because they did a really awesome job of kind of making Madrill look weak here. Kabuki has probably been the most protected individual in the area in terms of, looking like a major star while taking losses to the Von Erichs and others. But I think it's interesting that he's protected in great part because he's with Gary Hart and the Gary Hart Association. I think Gary Hart's probably the biggest manager never to be part of the WWF or WCW. Yes, I know he's part of the NWA, WCW transition, but WCW officially didn't start until I believe 91 in name, something like that. But so Gary Hart not as big a thing there, still in the NWA. I really wonder what would have happened if Gary had been part of the pro wrestling boom period in the 90s. I think wrestling would have been better. Of course, he came back for parts of Major League Wrestling in the early 2000s, retiring in 2004. But it's just sad to me that one of the better managers of a time period gets lost here. Several near falls in this matchup here. They've gone almost close to 20 minutes at this point, and the official finally does call it as a time limit draw, which post-match we see Kabuki hit the shin crusher breaker type maneuver on Madrill. They do not do it during the match, and I wonder if that's not to keep Madrill to be an opponent for him later. I don't know. Anyway, we move into the update on Kerry Von Erich, but not before Bugsy McGraw makes his way in to check on good old Al Madrill. But Kerry Von Erich talks about being injured. They do show a bit with his doctors, which is a little interesting. Kerry says he's going to be out for about 6 weeks. They talk about needing to do surgery on Kerry. Kerry having bits of his knee shaved off. They show the knee joint in I guess, surgical way. They talk about Kerry only being out 6 weeks or so. And they start here talking about a match with Flair, which ends up being on Christmas night, 1982, airing on television a few days later. They do not announce it as being a cage here, but that's where it ends up. And obviously fans are excited, or at least moderately so by that. We move to Michael Hayes versus Bill Irwin. And this is a favorite for the fans. Hayes already a fan favorite in Texas in just a couple of weeks, and I really wonder what would have happened. And I mean, I get that the Von Erichs and the Freebirds are probably one of the biggest feuds certainly the biggest feud in Texas ever in the 80s. I don't know enough about the 70s to speculate about that, but definitely the biggest feud of the 80s, and certainly the biggest feud of the world-class name, which began in 81, 82 anyway. But I do wonder what would have happened had the Freebirds stayed baby faces. Probably not enough space in the organization as a whole, but it's certainly one of those things where would have been interesting to see, could they have rivaled like a Hogan level thing had the Von Erichs and Freebirds both been in the same place? Could they have gone national with the two? Had they brought in bigger, badder heels? I don't know, but interesting to see Michael Hayes really using some very basic maneuvers, arm bars and the like. Hayes known more for the flash and the talking, not so here, proving that he can wrestle. And actually, I hadn't seen this early Michael Hayes, my first exposure to Hayes was late 80s NWA, so I had not seen him territorially other than clips from various places, but watching him episodically, I think he was underutilized as a babyface, and I think he could have been bigger than he was. Just watching the first few weeks of World Class, maybe I'll feel differently having seen more of him in the ring, but I think he's a hand, and it's also comparatively too in 2020. Probably, I don't think there's guys at the level of Bill Irwin or Michael Hayes. Anyway, Hayes comes up with a sunset flip 1-2 and gets a kick out there from Bill Irwin. Irwin, though, still showing himself to be the MVP of 1982, even with the new guy Hayes. And it's really amazing to me that you can have a guy like that like Irwin that's a sleeper. I only saw him as really an enhancement talent in Texas around the global time. So one of the things I love about this process of going through these old footage is I'm learning and I'm growing. And when I finally do someday, I need to make a bunch of money, but when I do run an independent, this is going to be a great education, and I'm grateful for it. But Irwin with a leaping high knee and taking the advantage on Hayes. I noticed that there are a lot of, they really gave the majority of the TV time, because we're 40 minutes into a 45-minute program on this match here, and they do give a really super quick squash to David Von Erich after this, but they go heads up, do Hayes and Irwin. Hayes with a bulldog to finish him off, and seeing Hayes in there with Bundy, and we're probably a week or two away from Terry Gordy coming in. Hayes goes out to the floor when the pile driver doesn't pay off. Hayes comes up with such fire getting back in the ring. He's so angry, and it's really there. We go off the ropes, do the crisscross, and thought they were going to hit the referee at a point, but Bill Irwin ducks outside, does not want to get in the way of a angry Michael Hayes. Who can blame him? But he's smart, he's wiry, he's all that, and Hayes goes back in, or Irwin goes back in and decides to, I believe, take the count-out loss here. And Michael Hayes with your victory. Then we see literally less than a 2-minute squash as Roberto Ernesto and David Von Erich do battle. Of course, Von Erich, former multi-time Texas champion. David, I think, is a guy that they really want to get the most out of, and they do so here. He comes in and is really ready to light him up. Doesn't even take the jacket off before he has the claw on, and takes the enhancement talent down, like I said, less than 2 minutes. Hayes wants more of H&H Incorporated, and we close the program for this week. So we're going to close out October next week, and going to close the year of 1982 pretty soon. But so thank you for your continued support right here at Pro Wrestling Logic.